No man in the world. No man in the world.
The measure of any society is how it treats its women and girls. It's women and girls.
We create
the smart, powerful, creative, accomplished young women.
We can fight.
I'm here because of you. I'm here because girls like you inspire me.
Buckle up, buttercups. It's another episode of Surly Voices here on WMNF Tampa 88.5. My name is Liz. I am one of your hosts. My co-hosts, Donna and Maria, are joining me by Zoom. How are you, ladies?
I'm well.
Yay, it's so good to hear Donna's voice. Maria, how are you?
I'm well. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So, what would you ladies like to start with today?
There's just so much.
I know. It's like...
Let's start with the rambling at the summit.
Rambling at the summit. Okay.
Yep. Just on and on and on, and just in front of the whole world. No shame. I mean, every time, he's like a car that you, every time you crank it up, this is going to be it. I got to go to the gas station. But nope, it cranks right up and rolls on to work.
Yeah.
If it were that utilitarian, please.
Right, exactly. And did y'all see the photograph of the world leaders like amassed and they're all talking to each other and Trump is like standing
and
there like a post.
Staring off into space.
Yeah. It's like, I mean,
everything we saw with Biden is only 10 times worse with this guy.
Right. And so as we did with Biden, we're saying now, okay, it's time for Grandpa to go. Although I don't know that the couch lover is going to be any better. But
the couch lover's out there trying to make a way for himself.
Right.
From what I understand, he was on The View the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it went well for him. I've only
Shocker.
What a shock. Yes, what a shock. If you want to join the conversation, you can give us a call at 813-239-9663, or you can email to dj@wmnf.org. Another thing, speaking of Trump, the corporate heavy non-celebrity or D-list celebrity white trash gladiator event on the White House lawn, which, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're ever going to live that down as a country. But it's like one of the fighters took the opportunity to say, he owes it all to Jesus Christ. He says that in one breath. In the next breath, he calls Michelle Obama a man. And there's a long, long history of doing that to black women. But it was like, okay, how was that even appropriate? And nobody said anything against him. They all just smiled and went on about their ways. And it's like, this woman isn't even she doesn't want to be anywhere near any of this politics and stuff like that. She did her time and she's gone, and yet they still keep dragging her back in. Racism in this country is so rampant and has been given a full license to just, be a racist. That's your right. That's your free speech. And so it's like, how do we even pick up and start over when all of this is over with?
Burn it down.
That's the only thing I see.
Nobody said we use these scraps, these sloppy seconds, to build anything from. You just have to start all over.
Right.
I would like to say that it's an interesting contrast. The opening of the Obama Center in
Yes.
Chicago, when you look at what the White House has become, and you look at the gathering place and the people who gather. And because I happen to have gone there with friends from Florida a couple of weeks ago, it's very interesting to me how far we've fallen. Not, I mean, and I for one can have a lot of critiques about the Obama administration. However, I think it's very sad just how far we've fallen in terms of um, just in terms of our basic human decency.
Right. It's like in Mississippi, I don't know if most of the audience are familiar with this, but a few days ago in Mississippi, a one-year-old was killed by police responding to a Walmart parking lot about a complaint of shoplifting. I don't care if you took everything out of Walmart, no guns should be involved. And there are people out there justifying the cops killing this baby. And he is absolutely gorgeous. And his name was Cohen Wiley. And the people in Mississippi are just devastated, but they packed into the town hall in Senatobia, Mississippi, and gave powerful testimony to how this community has been. And it's just disturbing to read the comment sections of anything about this case, because there's a certain faction who are up there is like, well, she shouldn't have shoplifted. Well, she didn't shoplift.
Don't even know that.
They don't know it. Yes. They are so eager.
I mean, when you're black, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
And you may not live or survive to be proven innocent.
Right.
That's the problem here.
Exactly. And so, but they use every single excuse you can think of to take the officer's side. Now, Walmart has cameras everywhere. It's like going to a casino. So eventually all this camera action is going to come out, and some people are going to be eating their words, because I've seen too many instances of cops gone wild,
The one thing I want to say about this, though, too, is that we all need to boycott self-checkout.
Yes.
Okay? Can we just all stop self-checking out, please? We don't work there, and they're not giving us a discount.
Right.
And it's all too easy for them to suggest that we didn't pay for something when they're making us check our own selves out. I have a friend in DC he refuses to go to the Whole Foods around the corner from him because he's an attorney. He's also a criminal defense attorney coincidentally, and he was accused of shoplifting at the Walmart. I mean, not the Walmart, at the Whole Foods.
Wow.
Around the corner from him, because he self-checked out. I refuse to self-check out simply because I don't work there. Mm-hmm. They're not paying for my health care, none of it. So, and they're not giving me a discount on the product. Mm-hmm. And she apparently self-checked out, and they accused her of stealing. the mom.
God. Well, all right, this is not about self-checkout, but it's about standing in line while black. There was a federal judge, I believe it was in New Jersey, who was in line at the coffee shop he goes to every single day. And the police come up and start hassling him, and everybody's like, no, he comes in here every day. Because somebody reported somebody looking suspicious. The only thing suspicious about him was he was a black man in a Starbucks or something, and it's like, are you kidding me? And he said, I'm a federal judge, and the cops just blew him off like the cops blew me off in New Orleans. That's a long story. Anyway, we have Justice from Spring Hill on the line. Let's see. Hi, Justice.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I just wanted to kind of add to the one comment about burning it down. I get the sentiment, of course. I know how we're feeling, but I like to think of it more as that we do need to flush the system and then vet it back in.
Okay.
The same way ourselves, we need to, at times, collect ourselves, let things go.
Right.
Let good things back in, of course. You have to. We need to do the same thing. Flush them all out. I love that you're speaking of other people rather than just the chump that's supposedly in charge. Because it's really them. It's not so much him. All this about him has been too much. And we need to get those people out that support him and any of it. And flush the system and then vet them back in.
Okay. Well, yeah, and we did not literally mean take torches and burn stuff down, just to be clear. Yeah.
I think that we don't, it's not the people who we are letting back in. I think we have to do a sober examination of the systems that we built.
Yes.
And you dismantle the ones that no longer or have never served us.
Right.
It is not the people that are the problem. It is their adaptation to a corrosive system that has gotten us to where we are today. And those systems no longer serve us.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
some of them never did.
Thank you so much for calling, Justice.
Thank you for everything.
Okay, bye-bye. You're right, Maria. I mean, it's like, let's go back and revisit the Electoral College. Is that working for us in the year 2026? Term limits on all offices, I think, would be a good idea. It would kind of truncate some of these career politicians who just hang around forever because they can, and reap benefits. Make the process for Supreme Court justice, have good ethical backbone, so that if somebody goes and spends holidays on a billionaire's yacht, that conduct can be reviewed and dealt with. So yeah, let's talk to Jack in Dover now. Hi, Jack.
Hi, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Last Thursday, you weren't able to take my second call. I tried to get in a little bit there at the very end because I felt passionate about what you were talking about. And it kind of goes along with what the last gentleman caller said about flushing the system and getting rid of, the obstacles that these giant hurdles, or you might want to say walls, that we all can't seem to navigate around. And I heard on the other radio station, your sister station, 97, whatever, the other one, 89.7. And they were talking about, there was a lady who did a lot of research and wrote a book about enslavement and stuff. And one of the things that she mentioned that I thought was pretty interesting is that they know who the slaves were. They know where they came from. They know who their parents were. And they were brought to the United States. And the people that know are the Lloyds of London Insurance Company. And she said that, she went there and she told them that she was researching slavery, and they shut her down. And they said, no, because of what you're researching, we're not going to tell you who these people were and, what their family lines are. And so, but then somebody else told her that if she went back and just said, that she was just doing research in general, that she could have had access to the files. And so I think that goes along with what we're experiencing here in the United States, the bureaucracy, the red tape, the ridiculousness. So I just wanted to mention that to you ladies this morning. I know that you're passionate about anything that, you take under your wing. And so this is something that I think is important. And I feel that, if there was a movement or if there were people that would just, say, we need to put pressure on England as a country. We need to go to their parliament and say, hey, what's the deal here? It's been a long, long time, and you're still refusing to help these people find out who they are and where they came from. They may have family members, generational family members that they could get in touch with, and you're prohibiting that by your actions. Why?
Okay.
Give me the reason why.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jack.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. So we have a text that says we need the Electoral College. If we didn't have it, the only California and New York would be deciding who is president. True or false? Maria, Donna?
I'm going to let Donna take this one.
No, I don't get that. I think that, how can you say that having a group of people take your vote and convert it into what they want is going to be more representative? A direct democracy would be more representative of the electorate than a representative democracy, which is what the Electoral College makes us. So before I can even get to the conversation about New York and Florida deciding, because right now these states have outsized votes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, they have outsized influence. As a consequence of population, yes. But if they ever decided to break the script, kind of like what's happening now, right?
Right.
If a couple of states decide that they'd like to secede from the union, looking at the economies of New York has an economy that surpasses the GDP of many small countries.
Right.
So I don't know if that makes sense to me off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
But also we talk about the popular vote a lot.
Yeah.
And with the exception of this last election, the Democrats have won the popular vote for the last 8 presidential elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that we would not have had Herbert Walker or W. Bush as president, which meant that we probably would not have been in an Iraq war. We would not have had a first term for Trump. So I don't know how. And then we haven't even touched on the historic context of why we even have an electoral college.
Yes.
Thank you. Because of slaveholding states. So, I don't understand how you can justify an electoral college which suppresses the vote of the population.
It's amazing how someone would come to the opposite conclusion of what we historically know the Electoral College was meant for.
Right.
Keep the decision out of the hands of common people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, look who the founding fathers were. They were all, landed gentry pretty much,
But they were elitists, and they were 2 footsteps away from being, some of them were actual monarchists.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also suggesting that we return our electoral process back to elitist. are elitists this time. This in 21st century might not be monarchs, but they are definitely oligarchs.
So can we just segue right into, because I think that's a good one, because what grinds my gears a lot of the time is how, and please just stay with me, okay? Because I might not make any sense. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to try it. How liberal arts universities, try though they might, to help young people who are eager to be good people and good professionals when they go into these institutions. Oftentimes their parents, are good people and good intellectuals and good professionals. And they send their children to get an education and they say, all men are created equal. However, some of the backlash that we've gotten against science and against public intellectuals and the things that they're telling us, research, universities, some of that is tied up into the fact that over a number of years, over a couple of centuries, actually, the intelligentsia, as it were, of the world, not just the United States, began to speak to the downtrodden as if we were indeed in a serfdom. Maria and I have had many conversations about how I feel about what they call the Black boule, or the Black upper middle class. This is a different socioeconomic class, just becoming a rapper and making $1 billion. These people have come from families where they have had consistent values over a number of generations, their diets, what they read, how they recreate. We say socioeconomics as if it just means money, but it doesn't. It means a lot of things. And so I find that because my parents were firmly working class people, I would say they were sophisticated enough to produce me, someone who can kind of merge in and out of those spaces. That was a lot for someone who was pulled out of school in the second grade. But to get to my point, some of that distrust is rooted in the separation between how the average working class American lives and the way that the educated classes live. And no one wants to talk about how people essentially got turned off. Oh, eat oatmeal because oatmeal lowers your cholesterol. Oh, Quaker did that study. And it was stuff like that happened over time. And they're even more egregious. There's lead in the water, and then there's lead in the paint, and the way they talk to poor people, housing projects. Think of the minds that conceived that. Let's take all of the downtrodden people, put them adjacent to bad schools, and see what happens next. And there's so much has happened to poor people at the hands of true blue Democrats who are good intellectuals and good professionals. We need to talk about that if we'd like to heal from this current breach in our party and in our nation. And I don't think that most people are prepared to have the conversation, particularly if they're one of those people in those spaces. They're not prepared to say that they have some blood on their hands.
Right. Well, I mean, remember when pre-MAGA, people on the far right would talk about the liberal elites. And I think that kind of goes along with what you're saying. People were made to feel ignorant by folks who had gone and gotten educations. And it created quite a sense of discontent amongst them.
We stood up to that. People say, "Oh, you're superbly educated. You must be very smart. What have you to say? Right? Can you help me think through some things?" And that is not true anymore. And have you seen? If you go on the internet and you say, "Hey, I want to do HRT," they've taken the black box warning off HRT, and the gloves are off, and all the girls are on estrogen. Some of the girls are on. Well, if you have your uterus, you have to have progesterone, and some of the girls are on testosterone. And that, yes.
That's got to be driving some folks wild.
Well, that removal of the black box because physicians said, you're going to get cancer if you do HRT, girls. And the girls said, okay, well, stay away from that. We
Right.
won't do HRT. And then they came back and they said, oh, if you do that transdermal patch, you bypass the liver, then you reduce some of the clotting that people are terrified of, especially people with cardiometabolic stuff going on. So it's like that took us from point A to point B. And somehow in all of that, we go, oh yeah, let's get rid of vaccines too, because we're not living 50 years longer. It's going to get out of control. And now we're anti-science. But there's danger in both approaches. And I would say that the people who are now suffering, all of us, are suffering from this disconnect between the educated classes and the not educated classes, particularly as education has become watered down and it's become more expensive to get a degree.
I wanna ground us in what you just said and what you started with.
Mm-hmm.
In 1971, there was a Powell memo written, and the Powell memo is really foundational to what we are calling Project 2025, about the dismantling of education, not the dismantling of public schools K through 12, but the intentional dismantling of higher education. And what you see is Florida also being at the epicenter of this dismantling of higher education. I see this stuff every day, every single day, where we no longer value research. We no longer, and in a time where they are literally, and it's funny because I mentioned earlier in this conversation about being at the Obama Center in Chicago. There is a whole display on the cancer launch, right? And just 2 weeks ago, there was a release of studies from the National Institute of Health about 3 promising vaccines for cancer. 3. One melanoma, one for liver, one for pancreatic cancer. And we all know, if you know, pancreatic cancer is one of the most deadliest. And we're at this point, this inflection point, where you no longer have scientists running your institutions around research. Everybody feels like because we all have access to the Google machine, that we can just look up stuff, right?
Right.
And think that if we boil a few leaves, we're going to cure cancer in our bodies. And I happen to love the idea of a liberal arts education, because the whole premise is to create people who think critically. Doesn't mean that everybody does once they leave, but there is an essential effort to think critically. And I no longer think that or believe that this is an acceptable way of doing things anymore. Like to have discernment, to actually think that your 15 minutes on the Google machine is equivalent to somebody's 27 years of research in a field.
Yeah, it's not. However, if the person with the 27 years uses that 27 years to misguide people so they can continue to get money for research.
I think, right, but then let's talk about the infusion of corrupt capitalism in that space.
Let me say this.
Because, right.
Let me say this. It is because of corrupt capitalism.
Right, and that's where I was going. So if your cancer research is sponsored by Lilly,
Yep.
but see, here's the thing: they teach you that.
Yeah.
When you are actually doing the research. So nobody teaches you that on the Google machine.
Right.
Like when your cancer research is done by is sponsored by Lilly, or when your agricultural studies are supported by Monsanto. Like, these are things that people need to have discernment about. And collectively, community wise, we are not doing that, right? Like, you've got people going down some very, very strange rabbit holes, and there's nobody there to pull them out.
Well, remember, let's use Ananda Lewis as an example. And I have warned my husband, who loves the YouTube, okay? He loves the YouTube machine. And he has family members who also believe that little soursop, they send it to him. They have it shipped to him. Soursop and cloves, alkaline water will cure a blood disease. It's called a cancer, but it's more like a dysplasia, right? Where the cells are dying in his blood, and over time, you just don't make enough platelets, and you have really low hemoglobin areas that challenge the heart, and then you get blood transfusions until they find a donor for you, and then you have a transplant. Well, he thinks that a situation that medically complex is something that you can have clove water, right? He's boiling those leaves that we were talking about. If you don't get yourself down over the market, sir, right now, just a holistic disrespect for the fact that the average life expectancy is pushing into 80 for white people in the United States. And that's up from about 40 during the Elizabethan era.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about this, we have to do a few things. We have to acknowledge that polio vaccines, right? We have to acknowledge the fact that we went through thalidomide babies and we figured some stuff out, and that we have to be honest about side effects of drugs, but that we also can't say that if a drug has a side effect, and let's say a heart medication, I'll use Repatha, for instance, stops the formation of soft plaque in the arteries. Now, when we know that heart disease is killing people at probably the highest level, right? Cancer is giving heart disease a run for its money right now because everything's poisoned. But when you look at the advances that science has made, and if you look at a 50-year-old right now, and you look at the Golden Girls, you can see that
Yes.
our thoughts about how we are supposed to age has changed outcomes. So facelifts and all people are having skin tightening and all kinds of things. You can walk around looking 35 years old and be 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's science, folks. So I don't have a problem with science personally. I have a problem with how science was used by capitalists to deceive people, and how now the people who have been deceived are putting their lives on the line because of it.
Right.
But you also touched on another piece of it, right? Like all of it. Capitalism also is the gatekeeper to access to optimal health care, because at the same time, the average age of white men is pushing towards 80. The average life expectancy of Black men is declining for the first time in U.S. history. So those are things that we have to be we have to be honest about in terms of like what exactly is happening here.
Right. Let's talk to Reverend Russell Meyer. Hi, Dr. Meyer.
Hey, hello, Surly Voices. How's everybody today?
Hey, Dr. Meyer.
We're doing well. Thank you.
Well, because of good medicine.
Better living through better pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen.
Yeah, I wanted to go deeper on some of the things that Donna was saying, and I want to go back to the Lewis Powell memo
in 1970. That memo was revealed after the fact. It got Lewis Powell appointed to the Supreme Court. Lewis Powell was the lead defense attorney for R.J. Reynolds fighting the tobacco suit. So he engineered the politics and the legal maneuvering to deny science for the sake of maximizing profit. And he wrote this famous memo in which he said, if the business community doesn't quickly organize, then the universities, the students, the churches, the activists, and the labor unions will destroy the American enterprise system. And so Nixon appoints him to the Supreme Court, really on the basis of this memo he writes to the Chamber of Commerce, and they create the Business Roundtable, and the business community has been the biggest lobbyist ever since in D.C., but the premise was that we're going to deny science for the sake of profit, and we're going to shut down all the people who are active in society trying to promote science and peace and well-being. They were shutting down people were shutting down the Vietnam War and exposing the ugliness of that war. And we've been living with extreme wealth, Texas oil money, etc., following Powell's advice to deny science in order for profit. We're all rich. It won't hurt us, and we don't care who it hurts in society. We'll just divide society against itself. So you can just follow from Nixon to Reagan into the Bush eras and now into Trump, sort of the development of that same playbook of Wall Street wealth intentionally denying science for the sake of profit. And everything you've just now talked about in the last few minutes all go back to the same premise. And now we have social media influencers funded by this same extreme wealth, convincing us to boil leaves rather than go to the oncologist.
Right.
And so we've got a lot to learn about who is influencing the silliness of our opinions in society today, and do a lot more education among ourselves. Use Google against Google. I mean, the facts are there if you're willing to go look for them. And so I would encourage people just to Google the Lewis Powell memo. Read it firsthand for yourself and understand that that's been the platform of our political economy for the last 60 years.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, Dr. Meyer.
Now, can I say something about, thank you, Dr. Meyer, as always, illuminating. Can I say something about at the FDA? When I was talking I couldn't get any answers in Florida. So when I was in Minnesota in 24, I talked to a world-renowned specialist, oncologist, hematologist, who works at the Mayo Clinic. Is that Mayo?
Mayo Clinic?
Yeah,
in Jacksonville?
that's in Minnesota.
Yeah, and then I get them mixed up with the other one, Johns Hopkins. Well, I talked to, so he's at Mayo, and I just randomly got, my algorithms got myself an invitation to the Mid-America Blood Cancer Conference.
Ooh.
So I asked a question in the plenary, and then he said, well, we're going to lunch. If you have your husband's documents, whether digital, I'll look at them for you. So he sat next to me for 45 minutes, and he read the results. And the first thing he said was, when you get a bone marrow biopsy, you want to do sequencing, DNA sequencing, within 24 hours of getting that. And that wasn't done twice. Yeah. And then he also said, the thing that I remembered the most about what he said, he said a lot of stuff, is that there are drugs already that treat this condition effectively that are on market in Europe that aren't even in research phase in the United States. There is no reason for that. The United States literally is the model for how you test and market a drug.
Well, yeah, that was before. Yeah.
However, the health service in the UK is doing a much better job of identifying these drugs and getting them to, not rushing them, but doing their due diligence. You know what bothered me about that is how much money it costs in the United States to get a drug to market, and all of the politics around what drugs you're getting to market, and how even as we push into an 80 life expectancy for some people, how we also are taking our time curing these drugs. And then once we have them, like Ozempic and Mounjaro, allowing them to be accessible to enough people that it impacts the way the disease is presenting or progressing in the population, how it's affecting public health is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Does that bother anybody but me?
It bothers me a lot because it's
bothers,
like, yeah, you go to Mexico and you can get pretty much any drug you want, and it's a lot less expensive than it is. I think all these, it's like, you remember when the United States was buying toilet paper for like $300 a roll? I think that's what it's like when you're paying all these fees for testing and things like that. You're paying pure sticker value and not trying to negotiate something lower, because that's the way it's always been done.
Woo. And so when people see stuff like that, when we see people rationing insulin and dying, that's what creates the distrust, right? Is Chris still on the board?
Yes.
Let's get 40 seconds.
All right. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, at the next March for Science, we should have a chant. What do we want? Science. When do we want it? After several double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized, crossover, multi-center, paid-off, peer-reviewed studies that no one has been able to replicate. And I know I don't have, if you're going to give me less time than others, to just give you some points about how cancer has been, the treatments have been suppressed. First, we have in 1900, Samuel Hahnemann Monument in Washington, D.C. is the only statue honoring a physician. It's the German physician who founded homeopathy. 1844, the American Institute of Homeopathy was founded. 3 years later, the AMA was founded, American Medical Association was founded. 1910, the report by Abraham Flexner for the Carnegie Foundation was promoting synthesizing synthesizing drugs from petrochemicals and coal tar, and doing away with holistic medicine. And lastly, in 1953, the Fitzgerald report, special counsel Benedict Fitzgerald submitted an investigative report to the Senate Committee on Interstate and Foreign Commerce, investigating claims that the American Medical Association and pharmaceutical industry were suppressing alternative or unconventional cancer treatments.
Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't fault capitalism, because we are under corporatism or fascism with a privately owned Federal Reserve issuing the currency and credit at interest since 1913 and the two previous times that we had privately owned banks running the country. So I think if we had capitalism, we would have more prosperity, where we would rather the disparity.
All right. Yeah. So
okay, wait. I said 40 seconds because I thought you were going to tell us things you've already told us before, but you're telling us things different than the things you told us before, and that's why we didn't stop you. So now I'm going to ask you a question, Chris. explain to me what you mean, because I know our viewers want to know, our listeners want to know. What do you mean when you say if we had capitalism?
Well, capitalism is defined as the right to private property. And when we have the Federal Reserve that issues the currency and the credit, if you look at for instance, the federal law, Title 12 of the U.S. Code, Section 411, it says that Federal Reserve notes are liabilities of the U.S. government payable to the Federal Reserve in lawful money, which used to be defined as gold and silver up until about 12 years ago. That's another story, but since 1913, we've had where if you look at Modern Money Mechanics, the Federal Reserve's publication out of the branch of Chicago entitled Modern Money Mechanics, it says that when you take out a loan, you're giving permission to the Federal, because you're doing it through a Federal Reserve bank, like a bank.
Wait. I think I got the answer.
Wait.
I got the answer. Hold on for a second.
Well,
wait a minute. I need another. You're going into the weeds here, and I have another clarifying question. I think I understand. So you tell me if I get this right. When you say capitalism, you simply mean the right to private property. Yes or no? I mean, please don't. Just yes or no.
Right, and the Fed is gobbling it up because they issue.
I knew you were going to do that. That's why I asked the question. Say yes or no. So then my next question is: do you believe that capitalism, the right to private property? I have some private property. I like it. I like to keep it. So I hear that. Like a lot of people that are listening have private property, and they like to keep it, and they not like to have to give it away because someone tells them to, because they've done a lot of things and used a lot of their life force to get it. But do you agree that the distribution of private property in our society, and you just a yes or no, please, and then you can continue what you're saying, that the ownership of private property is a gross oversimplification, in my estimation, of the idea of capitalism, because we have people who are basically creating money out of thin air, fiat money out of thin air, and anointing themselves kings, and then going into our government and digging into our Social Security, our health care, our veterans files, and saying, you guys don't need any of this. You guys, bro, you weren't even born here. You have people who are owed reparations. You have BIPOC people who are owed reparations for their land and their labor and generations of oppression. You've got a guy from South Africa,
Emerald Mine heir, yeah.
What's important in their budget and what isn't. I think that's a runaway train brought to you by unfettered capitalism.
And he's now a trillionaire after serving. Yeah.
What's the question?
That wasn't the aim when we said, hey, people have the right to private property. We were simply saying that it's not only the lords and ladies and the Marquis de Sade who have the right to private property in these United States, now that we're no longer serfs in Europe. We can practice our religion, we can own our own home, we can sit under our own vine and contemplate our days, as George Washington said, and as opposed to continuing to be a serf until you die, like you were in the music industry or something.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for call. Oh,
I wanted to respond. Is that
okay?
The private property issue is where the Federal Reserve can gobble it up, since they issue that publication I mentioned, Modern Money Mechanics, out of the Chicago Federal Reserve, says that when you take out a loan from a Federal Reserve member bank like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Citigroup, and a couple others, you're giving permission from the Federal Reserve to issue the principal, but they never issue the interest in the circulation, so it's impossible for everyone. It's musical chairs. It's impossible for everyone to pay back principal plus interest when only principal exists in circulation. So the collateralized property ends up being gobbled up by the Federal Reserve. And then, of course, they blow bubbles in industries, and they are deflated when they find they were overvalued when the Federal Reserve decides to invest in them. And they're threatened by our industriousness. To answer the original question, is they're afraid that if we were well nourished enough spiritually and factually, then and intuitively, we would certainly be able to see through their lies.
Right.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thanks
today.
so much, Chris.
Thank
Talk to you later. All right. So that's a different subject area for Chris. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I'd like to ask him if our listeners want to understand the angle that he takes on a lot of these issues, if he would recommend a book. Chris, feel free to text that or email that back to us so that people can go and, instead of going to the Google machine and spending 5 minutes and having depth of 2 inches, they can try to understand where you're coming from. Whether they agree with you or not is not the point here.
Right. Okay. We have a text, and it says, "Hi, Surleys. Did you see this story in Tampa Bay Times? I really think that the sadist is setting himself up to be UF president. So shameful. Bubba."
Who? What sadist?
The Satan.
Oh, okay. I missed. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's going to vote for this guy. We're barely voting for him in Florida.
Well, we'll see. Let's see. Oh, and then here. All right, vote on UF's next president stalls after questions over hiring practices. All right, David, Mr. White Pep. Hi, ladies. Great job on the show today. I tuned in late, but heard you talking about liberal arts education and critical thinking. I'm a former New College of Florida student and employee, and I can think of no other higher education institution that has done more for encouraging critical thinking than New College. And yet, the sadist dumbed it down, ruined it, and for what? He's failing and flailing 2024 presidential campaign? Get out of here. So shameful. I recommend...
There's actually...
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. There's actually a recently released documentary on the dismantling of New College that I encourage people to check out, because it does speak to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. It's not just happening at New College, but New College is the subject of a new documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Where is it?
I can share the link with you, and you could put it up on the Surly website.
Okay, because I saw it, and I can't remember where I saw it. I want to see it. Thank you.
Lisa from Lutz says, every time I listen to your show, I think of Annie DeFranco's lyrics. If you're not angry, then you're just stupid, or you don't care. Keep it surly, ladies.
Yeah, I think of James Baldwin. He says, like, to be a Negro in America and not be in a constant rage, right? Like,
yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
And still, you have people who are out there saying, oh, I'm not political. Well, you need to pick a side, because things are not getting any better any sooner. So, and there's also the old quote about, if our evil prevails when good men do nothing. And so it's like, when are we going to get any kind? We're going to just, have to keep hoping that our Congress actually does something for a change.
We're past that, and I want to do a prognostication show next week.
Ooh, okay.
We simply talk about things that are happening, and then we give you it's summertime now, elections in November, and it's time for us to begin the prognostication services. So
yes.
I would like to begin next week.
Okay.
Doing that.
That'll be fun. We haven't done one of those in quite a while, so.
We excel in that area.
Yeah, we do. We have a really great track record. Frank has given us the finger, which means it's time to go. Please join us again next week for Surly Voices on WMNF Tampa 88.5.
dollars, I like diamonds. I like stunning, I like shining. I like $1 million deals. Where's my pen? Bitch, I'm signing. I like those Balenciagas, the ones that look like socks. I like going to the jeweler. I put rocks all in my watch. I like Texas from my